All right, you guys, good morning. Lots to get caught up on today. We're going to get into the Thomas Massie AI election loss and how that fits into the current AI takeover and mind control deception. We're also going to get into my thoughts on the reasons behind the current Ebola outbreak in Africa. And if you can believe this, unvaxxed dating gets canceled. Wow. And then we'll finish up with some thoughts of what Trump is up to in allowing China to buy U.S. farmland. The poor farmers. Farm foreclosures are up 50%. And of course, a lot of that land will go to China. It almost seems like it was pre-planned. But I wanted to start today's show with what happened with Thomas Massie in Kentucky, the senator that was leading the charge to get the Epstein files released. And I don't want to harp too much on partisan politics, but years ago I warned that if left unchecked, we were fast approaching what I called a singularity of deception, where technology would create a reality in which everything we were being told was a lie, and that we would have no ability to properly check the facts to see if it were true or not. And in addition to not being able to vet the facts, the will to actually drill down and find truth would simply not be there anymore. And the reason why I knew that would be the case is because of the sheer volume of lies that we would be faced with every single day, literally a swamp of lies hitting us at warp speed. Now, this did not start under Trump. This started long before that. But really, the pivotal point had to have been under COVID. COVID is when the lies started pouring out. We were barraged by them every single day. Truth became a minority at that point in history. And all of that has now been confirmed after the fact, but it is too late for millions of people who put something in their bodies under false pretenses. Too little, too late. Now, all of this accelerated under Biden as we were lied to for 4 straight years that Biden was actually competent to run America. They wanted us to believe a lie right in our faces. And now here we are at the warp speed of lies, as Trump has gone back on nearly every promise that he's made in his campaign. No one can ignore that at this point. And this Thomas Massie primary really did bring us through another portal of reality, with Trump lying on many levels to unseat Massie, who always had won 80% of the vote in Kentucky in all the previous elections. But for some reason, there was a huge flip-flop. Now, Trump said some very outright lies. He said that Massie voted with the liberals against border control and for the trans movement, but it actually wasn't like that at all. Essentially, these things were buried in bills that had all this other stuff, because other things that Trump wanted passed dominated those issues which Massie opposed. The liberal issues were a side note of the bill. In other words, had Massie been given a clean bill, he would have voted yes on it. It's just like, if you could imagine an example of this, it would be like trying to eat a cheeseburger that you knew a fly was cooked inside of it. You wouldn't eat it. And Massie rejected the burger because of the other things that Trump tried to sneak into it. But this was largely panned as him siding with the Democrats. Now, the actual truth of this, and again, I don't vote anymore because the whole thing is a sham, and any energy I feel is that we give to it is legitimizing it. So I don't vote. I'm simply speaking in terms of what actually happened with this latest race. Massie is actually far more conservative than Trump is. But you are led to believe that Massie's a sellout because he doesn't back Israel. Now, something far more sinister happened with the Massie election and how he lost, because the target group were, you guessed it, the boomers. Now, of course, I look at the demographic on my channel, and believe it or not, there are more boomers that come to this channel than I would have ever imagined. So I'm not speaking about boomers in general. I'm talking about the group of boomers who kind of do what Trump asks them to do, who still believe the lie. Now, there probably aren't a lot of boomers on this channel that actually still believe in Trump, but I needed to clarify that so that you don't feel grouped into one group, right? But overwhelmingly, we are told that Christian boomers vote Trump and Israel, and it was Israel who threw $35 million at this race, setting a record for campaign spending against Massie in a primary. And the boomers there, we are told, voted against Massie just because Trump told them to. Now, what made the campaign ads so sadistic, and this ties into how I opened the show today, what made the campaign ads so sadistic was that deep fake AI ads were used to trick boomers who don't even know that this kind of technology exists. These were the ads that were run. They literally showed Thomas Massie and inferred that he was having a threesome with AOC and this other woman. They were all AI deepfakes. They first tried to roll out a woman that accused Massie of a bad breakup, essentially. That didn't work. So then they came with these AI ads. Now, believe it or not, there are a lot of boomers, again, that don't understand how this works. They thought what they were looking at was real. And it absolutely was not real. And so, yes, we've approached a point in history where people don't know what's real anymore. And when you couple that with emotion and manipulation, people will vote in ways that you could never imagine. This is the problem with AI technology. Now, rewind to the beginning of Trump's second term, when he literally wrote into law that no state could put constraints on AI. Trump signed an executive order establishing a single national policy framework and blocking states from enforcing individual AI laws, arguing that a patchwork of state rules stalls economic innovation. This would include limits on AI campaign ads, I can imagine. So now we see why this happened. Because it enables them to steal elections and manipulate people's minds with fake video and images of things that never existed. You guys, this is the beginning of the end. Technology has altered our reality. And we are now in the reality of lawlessness and lies. And we all know who the father of the lie is. It's the devil. Wow. Now, people ask me why I don't vote. Well, this primary was an example of why I don't vote. All the effort is pointless. We're better off collectively making a conscientious objection and essentially going on strike against the entire election process and the entire system, in my opinion. Now, you can do what you want. I'm never going to tell you what to do. But that is my opinion. I watched the whole build up to this Massie election. I was interested in it only because Massie was the one who brought the bill to bring the Epstein files. And that was actually a pivotal moment in our political process. Nobody ever thought that that would ever happen. And he was the guy that got it done. So I was kind of watching this. I was setting aside my emotion because there's a lot of really, really upset conservative people out there that Massie lost. I mean, people are crying. People are angry. I won't let myself feel those emotions anymore behind politics. But I did watch the build up to this and all of the effort and energy people were putting in. There were podcasters showing up to Massie's house. They were there for like an entire week. He had like an open house. And I was like, wow. And they were so confident they were going to get this to turn around. And all I could think to myself is, if people used that energy to spread the gospel, for instance, imagine what we could do for the kingdom. And so one day I woke up and I just quit voting. It's essentially an energy trap. Now, here's the twist, the plot twist that you should not fall for. They are literally gaslighting the American people. They're trying to force an armed revolution. This is what our controllers are currently doing, I believe. Why would they do this? So they can deploy technology that they want to test to crush the revolution. All of the elements are in place, you guys. Trump's loyal ICE, his power-hungry executive orders that have overreached states' rights with National Guard, his National Guard Army, ICE Army. The detention centers are already built. Trump also said recently that there would be literally a drone patrol enforcement mechanism sitting on the roof of the ballroom, which essentially means we're going right back to that movie that we decoded called 2073, where the sky was full of enforcement drones. Let's pull up that image here while I got you guys on here. 2073 movie, drones. Remember the sky full of drones? And I told you guys this would be Trump's next presidency. Well, here we are. It's happening. This is the woman from Minority Report. She was one of the precogs, laying in the swamp, predicting crime. And it was a spoof, wasn't it? Because there were 3 precogs. And it was a blasphemous image of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Trump wants to be God, and here we are. The drones in the sky. All of this actually happened, with ICE scouring the streets, shooting people in the face. So we were right, weren't we? And what most people don't know is that during Trump's first term, he signed legislation, or an executive order anyway, to allow the expansion of drone capabilities. He allowed drones to fly at night. You can look this up. Just Google search it. Don't trust me. Just look it up. Which laws under Trump allowed for drones to fly at night and out of the sight of operators? Trump did that in his first term. And then we saw at the end of Biden's presidency, night drones started flying around, didn't we? Wow. Now, let's keep going here. Do not fall for the trick. They want revolution. All of this is going to be turned into anybody who questions Trump, anyone who questions the rigged election, the inflation, the war in Iran, they will come after. They want people to rise up violently. They are prepared and they are waiting for it. Our job is to stay in the spiritual. Your actions, how you live your life, how you reject the system with your spending, with your beliefs, and your loyalty and belief in Jesus Christ. This is how we will survive this tribulation. Not by rising up. That's what they want, so they can crush it. There will be people who do this, but you don't want to be part of those crowds. You guys, we are fast. Let me tell you why this is going to happen. Why people are going to rise up. And this is where the rubber hits the road. And please listen very carefully. This isn't fear-mongering. This is the truth about what is happening right now. We are fast approaching a day's wage for a loaf of bread mentioned in the book of Revelation. I've been following this very closely over the past 3 weeks. Food prices are through the roof. If you haven't been to the grocery store in the last 3 weeks, when you return, you will see your cost to fill up a cart go from $200 to $300. Produce is now triple what it cost a few years ago. Weekly vine-ripe tomato price used to be in January about $2 a pound. It is now well over, it was actually about $1.50 a pound. It's now well over $4 a pound in May, and it will continue to go up. Fuel is already double what it was 3 months ago. Double. Electricity and water costs will continue to go up. Most people are paying 25 to 50% more in electricity and water costs, depending on whether or not you live next to a data center. AI has replaced jobs. Now, here's the insidious nature of how many jobs have been replaced by AI and who it is targeting. Professional women are disproportionately affected by job loss to AI. Here it is. Women are disproportionately impacted by AI-driven job replacement and task automation. Data from organizations like United Nations International Labor Organization reveal that women in high-income countries are nearly 3 times more likely to have their jobs automated by AI compared to men. Trump is essentially rolling back history. He's going back in time. Is this why he's the time traveler? America is starting to look like it did in the 1960s and 70s. With full immunity for police officers and ICE to do whatever they want. With women's jobs being replaced. There was a time in our history recently where a woman couldn't even get a credit card. That wasn't too long ago. The 1970s, women were not allowed to have credit cards. So, once this technocracy is fully in place, then they will begin to roll out the unfair laws because they know that they can rig any election, they can rig any poll. And so what's going to stop them from rigging laws against personal property, against jobs, against freedoms, and everything else? You see, Trump is emboldened right now. He knows he can do whatever he wants. After this Thomas Massie election, heck, I don't even think that the Republicans are going to lose the midterms because they can simply rig everything. So now the gloves are off. And now we're starting to see how Trump really feels about these issues that most Americans care about. Like, for instance, American farmland being sold to China. Yes, Trump has reversed his stance on the ability of Chinese to come in and buy our farmland. Now, why does this matter? Well, when there is not enough supply and there's a lot of demand, which is driven up by more people buying farmland and any land for that matter. So China comes in and starts buying up a bunch of land. That drives up the cost for everybody else. This is why people can't afford to own their own properties and land. It's China's fault. Now, some people might say, well, that's a good thing that your property value is going up. I'm a homeowner. Well, guess what? This might sound shocking to some, but I don't care about the increase in my property value. I really don't care. What I would rather have is stable property values, but I don't need it to grow. Why would I want my property value to grow? All that's going to do is increase my property tax. And for those of you that have been around for 20 or 30 years that have owned property, you have seen your property taxes almost equal what your original mortgage on the house was. In other words, some of you have mortgages that were only $800 a month. Heck, my first mortgage, my very first home that I bought in Atwater, California, was $852 a month. Well, guess what? The property taxes in that very house that I lived in all those years ago is now about $800 and something a month for just the property taxes. Homes should have never been allowed to be corporate investments, or any investment for that matter. They should be a stabilized market where people can afford to purchase a home, not financial instruments. Now, that's just my opinion, and some people aren't going to like that, but that's how I feel. And I believe that is a Christian-based belief system. I always ask myself, what would Jesus do? Would Jesus care only about how much his property was worth and screw everybody else who can't afford it because his property value keeps going up? Of course not. He would want everybody to be able to have a place to live. Right? Let's get back to what would Jesus do? So we have some issues here in America, don't we? And they've got everybody in their own little corner going, I don't care as long as the stock market's doing well, screw everybody else. Or I don't care as long as my home value is high, screw everybody else. Is that how Christ would do it? Of course not. So here's what Trump says about China. Let's read this one. During his 2024 campaign for the White House, Trump repeatedly pledged to block Chinese nationals and companies from purchasing U.S. farmland as part of America First. Shortly after winning a second term, his administration moved aggressively to curtail Chinese student visas. Today, however, he has reversed course on both sides. A development that threatens to isolate many in his base and who view China as an existential threat to U.S. sovereignty. Trump's pivot on the issue was drawn into focus following his visit to Beijing this week for high-stakes summit. In an interview on Friday, Trump defended his turnaround while offering little explanation for his change of heart. He says, frankly, I think that it's good that people come from other countries and they learn our culture, and many of them want to stay here. I think it's a good thing, he said, defending his plan to approve 500,000 visas for Chinese students. Do you remember about 5 years ago, I told you Trump loves China? I told you that his nanny being Chinese and his grandchildren and children speaking fluent Mandarin was a sign. The Chinese police stations in New York, where he was the president, was a sign. And all the other signs we saw in the predictive programming in movies and TV and commercials was a sign. Well, now it's actually happening. Now people, the MAGA crowd is saying, we didn't know, we just took Trump at his word. You can't blame us for voting for him again. We didn't know. Well, if you were watching this channel, you knew, because even during the Biden presidency, we were talking about the two faces of Trump, the Gemini, and that he would be reelected and we would see the opposite of what he was the first term. But unfortunately, real truth never gets seen by the masses. We might rewatch that Trump Gemini Janice video at some point, and you will just be shocked because everything we said in that actually happened. Now, in the same interview, Trump defended the Chinese ownership of U.S. farmland, directly contradicting his own campaign speeches in which he vowed to stop Beijing from buying up our farmland and warned that foreign ownership threatened American independence. He says, look, it's not that I love it. You want to see farm prices drop. You want to see farmers lose a lot of money. Just take that out of the market. But they've had a lot of land for a long time. Obama did nothing about it. They bought a lot during the Obama administration, and he did nothing about it. So he just keeps blaming previous presidents. And when you couple this with farm foreclosures being up, farm bankruptcies are up. Here's the statistic. And a lot of this is because of Trump's policies. Farm bankruptcies are primarily driven by a combination of declining commodity prices. That was because of the trade deal and the tariffs. Persistently high production expenses. That's Trump's fault. Fertilizer, fuel, and labor. And elevated interest rates. That's Trump's fault. So he essentially traded out our farmers for the Chinese, who can afford to buy our farmland. Wow. Now, we're going to hop off of politics. I do have a poll up. I've been having a lot of dreams lately. Dreams within dreams. Nested dreams. Continuation dreams, where you literally wake up, you're wide awake, you go back to sleep, and the dream just picks up where it left off. And anytime I have these kind of dream upticks, I see it as a sign of increased spiritual activity in the unseen realm. And so I was curious as to how many of you had also experienced increases in dreams. So it looks like about half of you have. Let's end this poll. Thanks for tuning in. Wow. Now, what else is going on? Well, many of us are proud that we did not take the vaccine, didn't we? And as we did this as a matter of principle, some of us, and some of us, as a matter of that principle, do not date people who are not, did get the V word. I got to be careful with my words here. But many of us stay away from people who did get it. Why? Well, it's for various reasons. Some feel that only the weak and untrustworthy people gave in and got it. Others believe that those who did it might shed on us or are altered in some way that makes them an unworthy mate or partner. Even Google came up with a dating app for unvaxxed people. I couldn't even believe this. I looked it up. Unjabbed, unvaccinated dating. 10,000 downloads. Wow. Now, I've heard some horror stories. I've heard people who have claimed that are literally going around and trying to infiltrate the unvaccinated dating and are claiming that they weren't vaccinated, but they really were. And then the person that hooked up with them found out later, after it was already too late, that they were, in fact, jabbed. Wow. After everything that's been disclosed about the V word in 2026, this is what's happening. They are literally banning unvaxxed people from getting together to date in communities across America. Denver beer gardens canceled unvaccinated singles mixer, citing safety concerns. I couldn't believe the date on this. After everything that's been disclosed about what the V word is doing to people, they're going to ban this. Let's read this one. If you live in and around Denver, you were hoping to find a lover who is un-V word. It just got a little bit harder. A singles mixer for unV'd people, scheduled for May 29th, at the Recess Beer Garden in Denver's Highland neighborhood has been canceled by the venue after staff said they faced verbal harassment and threats in the wake of the event's announcement. The organizer, dating platform Unjabbed, oh wow, so that's another dating platform, Unjabbed, said the free event will still take place elsewhere. The mixer was being promoted by Unjabbed, which describes itself as the world's first unveed platform and says it is built on creating health-conscious relationships with those who share like-minded values. Now, the reason why I can imagine this got canceled is because something far higher up in the food chain put pressure on this venue. You see, they don't want people like us organizing and thinking for ourselves and creating movements that go against future agendas. They don't want us making up our own mind and gathering together and connecting with people who think the same way we do. Wow. Now, that leads us to what's on the horizon with Ebola. Yes, there has been another Ebola outbreak, which seems to be a sign of the shape of things to come and why they would crush and cancel unvaccinated people from getting together and finding love. I can imagine they have something planned for us. Now, this is a serious Ebola outbreak. This happens from time to time in Africa, but already 144 are dead. There are 653 suspected cases. This particular strain has a 50% kill rate. Now, many of you will remember that a guest that we had on the show years ago who was born in Africa. And he told us about the blood diamonds. The diamonds were so plentiful, he said, in parts of Africa, that after the rains, the children would collect the diamonds out of the mud. They were literally sitting on top of the ground. And he said that they were so large that they would play marbles with them. Now, of course, these are uncut diamonds, but they were so large they could play marbles with them. But there was a problem. The stark contrast between wealth and poverty in Africa around these diamonds and natural mineral resources was so stark and so glaring that the corruption was obvious. My guest explained that UN trucks would smuggle gold and diamonds out of the country, but that it was illegal for them, the locals, to collect any diamonds, try to sell them or export them. But large corporations would come in and exploit the land and resources, exporting the wealth. They had monopolies on the diamond cutting industry. I don't need to name the country. You all know who it is. And nothing was given back to help the country from which it came. But there was something far more insidious that my guest explained about the blood diamonds. That every time a major mineral discovery was made in a region, an Ebola outbreak would almost always follow the discovery. And that most people in these places refused the free vaccines, did not trust Bill Gates, did not trust the Red Cross. And that brings us to the current Ebola outbreak. Now, I only had to go back to 2023 to find what you are looking at on your screen right now. You see, the province where the outbreak began, on your left in red and pink, is rich in minerals. Here's a map of the minerals on the right. Gold, cassiterite, coltan, wolframite, copper, and diamonds. And up here, you can see all the gold in a region of the Congo called Ituri. Ituri. Now, as I was researching this, I found that Ituri, back in 2006, was literally designated as a mineral-rich area of the Congo. In fact, Ituri is right in the middle of one of the most important gold deposits on Earth. Yes, the epicenter of this newest outbreak, the Ituri province, is where the most gold on Earth is. Always follow the money. Wow. So, what does that tell you? Well, that's up for you to decide. I don't know what all this means. All I know is this can't be an accident. All I know is that there's plenty of incentive to release a bioweapon to soften the target and go in and steal the gold. Wow. All right, I'm back in the chat, you guys. That's what I wanted to cover for today. Please thumbs up today's video. Now, what kind of dreams are you guys having? We'll talk a little bit more about dreams before we end the show today. I don't remember most of my dreams, but I can tell you this. I'm always in a house. I'm always in a house. Or I'm on some kind of ragtag bicycle that's falling apart. And I'm trying to get somewhere. I'm trying to carry out a task that seems impossible to carry out, like getting the kids to school or making it to a job interview, and I just never get there. Or I'm in a house with many, many rooms, some large rooms, some tiny rooms. I'm trying to get through cracks and crevices and tunnels, and I can never get out of the house. And I have to wonder, you see, the devil has a counterpart to everything that God does. And God tells us that his mansion is full of many rooms. So the devil will have his own counterpart, dark side version of that, right? The devil has us stuck in a house with many rooms of deception and lies that we can never quite find our way out of. And I wonder if all of these dreams are like a metaphor for everything that's happening right now. America is lost in a dream of lies. No, we can't get enough people to wake up to the lies, and therefore we are all stuck in the devil's mansion. You know, these rooms of deception where we can't get anything done. We can't get any traction. We can't wake enough people up. We are stuck. We can never carry out the task. Wow. So Christy has had similar dreams. So yeah, this will be our opportunity to kind of talk about all this. Wow. Now understand that the bright side of this is that absolutely God's mansion has many, many rooms. And I always thought about what that might mean. God's original plan was a vast garden of trees. Trees that I now believe were frames of reality, entire worlds. When you go into the tree or partake of it or eat of the tree, you go into another world. A world with different laws of physics. In one world, you might be able to fly. Another world might have massive fruit, the size of a house. Other worlds might have other laws of physics that we don't even know about yet. There could be water worlds and all these things. And this is why the devil depicts these things in a negative light. He's trying to get you disenfranchised and disassociated with the idea of heaven and what heaven might be like and what a new garden might be like, a new heavens and a new earth. He wants you in a negative space and not thinking of the things of heaven. And this is why Jesus said, keep your eyes fixed on heaven. So it is good that we talk about what heaven might be like. God's mansion with many rooms, many trees. Mansions are made out of wood and trees. Different frames of reality. We are stuck in the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, where everything dies. God said, if you partake of it, you will surely die. And all of Adam's and Eve's ancestors, all of us, are still stuck under that curse. But the narrow way out of this is Jesus Christ. Through the narrow gate, through the portal, back to God's mansion with many rooms, the rest of the garden, where we will not surely die. We will live forever. There will be infinite things to do. We won't be under the slavery of work and all these things. It will be a self-replenishing garden. A self-replenishing garden where we will not have to labor by the sweat of our brow, where we will not have to feel birth pangs. And it's good to reflect on these things because, yes, there's a lot going wrong in this world, but it only proves that the devil's system will not stand. Built on sinking sand, a kingdom divided will not stand. These are all in the Bible. These are all biblical principles. And it's absolutely true. The kingdom is divided 50-50. 50% Democrats, 50% Republicans. It cannot stand. Perfectly divided. So, all right, you guys, I'm in the chat. The waters water the garden. Yes, before the fall of man, there was a mist that arose from the ground and watered the entire garden. That's how everything was watered. It was like a fog. The house dream for me is reoccurring. Wow. Here, let's do a poll. Okay, start a poll. Have you had the house with many rooms recurring dream? All right. Let's see how many of you have had that recurring dream. Dreams are fascinating to me because when I do my research on dreams in the Bible, I did a word search on the word dream. Every single time a dream happened in the Bible, it was a prophecy of something that had not happened yet. That's pretty amazing. Now, I don't know if every single one of our dreams is a prophecy, but you have to wonder. So, looks like about 40% of you have had that recurring dream. Yeah, the house just goes on forever. It's like you leave one room and you go through another and another and another, and you never can get out of it. That's the dream. And it's not always scary. It is sometimes. But yeah, crazy. Now it's closer to half of you. We know Trump has been scheduled to do this at least since 1958. Yes, track down the Western. I think it went back even before that. I think it went back before he was born. I think it was a bloodline thing. His father and grandfather and mother. Yeah, it's pretty apparent, isn't it? Crystal used to have kickball dreams and couldn't even ever kick the ball. The rooms keep getting smaller in some of your dreams. Wow. Some dreams can be intense. Have you heard of all of the people having the mall world dream? No, I haven't heard that. Here, let's do this. Okay, let's end this poll. Here, I have one more dream poll for you guys. Have you had the dream where you are getting ready to go somewhere, but never get there? That one is frustrating. Sometimes, like, I'm working, I'm like back in my career in my dream, like pharmaceutical sales. I'm ordering a lunch. I go, nothing goes right. I go to pick up the lunch from the caterer or whatever, and it's wrong, or I never get to my presentation during the lunch. It's like so frustrating. And then you wake up only because you just keep failing at what you're trying to do in the dream. That's what actually wakes you up, because you're like, you get tired in the dream and then you like wake up exhausted. Wow. So these are, I guess the show turned into dream trends. Dream trends. So these are trends in dreams. Looks like about half of you have had that dream. Wow, that's actually shocking. Okay, let's do another poll. Continuation dreams. Okay. Have you ever woken up, then went back to sleep, and continued a dream you already had? Wow. Good morning. Satan and his evil kingdom cannot keep us stuck in something or somewhere we don't belong. I need to quit thinking they are going to change this incredible evil, humble ourselves. Only Jesus can heal. Amen to that. Wow. Almost all of you have had continuation dreams. Wow. And here's the big clue. Remember, for years and years and years, they told us you have to reach rapid eye movement in order to dream. Let's see if they fix that. This is how you know science doesn't know what they're talking about sometimes. Let's see. Is it required to reach REM in order to dream? I knew this was hogwash. See? It used to say you had to reach rapid eye movement in order to have a dream, unless this is a Mandela moment. Do you guys remember that? Wow. Because I would literally go back to sleep, and within 5 minutes, I'd already be back into a dream. So I knew I had not reached rapid eye movement. Because they always told us, oh, you have to reach the deepest sleep in order to dream. So these people don't know what they're talking about. Now, here's the question. Why would they lie to us about something like this? Here's where we have to try to reverse engineer the deception, right? Because if they're lying to us and telling us you have to reach rapid eye movement in order to dream, then we have to figure out why they would lie to us about that. So what do you guys remember? Okay, let's end this. Let's try this. Let's do this. Start a poll. Do you remember us being told that it is impossible to dream unless you are in REM sleep. I remember that. So when did that change, and why wasn't a memo sent out? After they gaslit people for decades, why wasn't a memo sent out? There should be reparations. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so most of you remember it the way I do. Trust the science, right? When I was very young, I used to sleepwalk. I'd wake up in the middle of the street, literally. So most of you remember that. I was taught in medical school for PA that rapid eye movement was when you dream, 2006. There you go. Cannons did not get the memo. Remember, yes, Aaron. An ember is like a spark or a piece of coal that's glowing. I miss having dreams where I could fly when I was younger. To me, the most fascinating dreams were like you could literally wake up in the dream and realize you were dreaming. So then you became like the master of your own world. You could do anything. Now, I've only had that happen like 5 times in my life where I knew that I was dreaming when I was in the dream. And then what would I do? You could like imagine anything. You can fly. You could put a buffet in front of you and realize that, wow, I could eat all this food and not gain a pound because it's not real. Those are the best dreams ever. You can do whatever you want in your dream because you know it's a dream. I don't know what they call that, like a lucid dream. I think that's called a lucid dream. Andre had a dream once, was floating around my room. Let's get our houses in order. I've had those, few and far between. Yes, they're very, very rare. That's what's been happening to Tonette lately. She knows that she's dreaming, lucid dreaming. Dreams can be stressful. Yes, the work dreams are the stressful ones because you wake up and you're like, man, lucid dreaming. My dreams changed after a head injury. We have to be careful with dreams because they said they have the technology to implant memories now. Wow. All right, you guys. Well, I guess we'll end the show there. I just wanted to have a little discussion about dreams. We'll be back tomorrow, probably with either Toy Story's Dark Side, marked in the hand and forehead, or Trump's end of the world prophecy. So we'll get into one of those 2 shows. I'll let you guys pick the show tomorrow. And if there's any other headlines, we'll do that as well. Thanks for showing up, you guys. I love each and every one of you. See you tomorrow. Take care.